Money Troubles is the 9th episode of the first season of Taxi. This is directed by the wonderful James Burrows, and there will be some spoilers as I talk about what happens in this. I won't go through scene by scene or anything, but I'll talk roughly about the basic concept and mention a few personal highlights. I don't think it's the funniest episode, but there are a couple of things that I really liked, and I think it raises some important topics. It focuses on John and Suzanne, who married relatively recently, a couple of episodes ago, and we spend a lot of time in their apartment, which has an interesting layout. It's quite a small, cramped apartment. It does feel kind of very much enclosed, but it's a nice enough layout. We have a large window in the back, very Friends style, and a nice kind of kitchen layout. It's a nice set design, if a little small, but obviously it makes sense for the newlyweds to have a smaller apartment in the meantime, and their parents, Suzanne's parents rather, are currently paying the rent. But when Alex and Latka are over there for dinner, and I'll talk more about those characters in a moment, Suzanne gets a phone call and she's very agitated afterwards. And we get a bit of suspense for a good couple of minutes until she finally reveals to John that her parents are no longer able to pay for their rent. And they realise that they both can't afford to pay the rent and go to school. They're both going to school. And the episode is partly about Alex wanting to lend them the money, but not really sure if it's something he should do. Obviously, when you lend friends money, there are drawbacks. But also, if they don't take the money, does that mean only one of them can go to school? And if so, how could they possibly decide who is going to school? I won't say what their method of deciding was. I will say it wasn't necessarily the most effective way of doing things. But the whole idea of lending friends money, I think, is obviously a very difficult situation because you want to help out your friends, but then you don't want that friend to feel like they're indebted to you, and you certainly don't want to have to keep nagging them for repayments if they decide to not pay you back. So I think Alex was in a difficult situation, and I think it handled the topic really well. Maybe not very funny. It's not a particularly funny story, but I think they did a good job with it nevertheless. However, personal highlights for me actually came from Louie, and as much as I hate to admit it, Latka. I don't like Latka as a character, but I do think occasionally he is quite funny. And for me, the funniest moment in this episode came from, well, Alex and Latka. Latka is learning some English phrases that he can say at a dinner party, such as, "You have to give me the recipe," and Alex would occasionally accidentally say those things, because there are common phrases to say at a dinner party, such as, "Can you please pass the salt?" And when he said that one, Latka's facial expression was just fantastic. And I found it to be quite funny. I thought it was very well done. Louie is also entertaining because he's trying to get an invite to the dinner party and then he pretends that he doesn't want to go. And I just thought he was very entertaining. I rather enjoyed his character in this one quite a lot, even though he wasn't central to the storyline. I definitely think he was one of the funniest. And Latka was pretty amusing as well, which I don't like to admit. The main narrative definitely wasn't that funny. I think there is the potential for comedy, such as the way John responded when they were trying to decide who would go to school, and then they found out which of them would go to school, and how that kind of played out was maybe a bit unexpected and maybe a tiny bit funny, but not exactly laugh out loud hilarious. But it was fine. It was a decent enough episode. I think it deals with a topic that a lot of people will benefit from thinking about. And we have some highlights there. For me, as I said, the dinner table scene with Alex and Latka, and also with Louie. I also think Suzanne gave a great response to finding out that news. I think the suspense there was very well done. Not funny, but definitely well done. Money Troubles is not a bad episode of Taxi. It's pretty decent. Maybe not the most funny, but still well written with some good moments. And ultimately, I can say that I enjoyed it.